Mm-hmm. Now, of course, John, you'll probably appreciate what I use for a gavel.
Oh my goodness.
I now call this general meeting of the Lancaster County Democratic Party to order, as much order as we ever manage in a group of Democrats. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. And I think you'll be very entertained and enlightened by John Brisini's presentation. I saw it several years ago back at the John Spratt Issues Conference. Yep. And felt it would be, and when I bumped into John recently and had a chance to find out he's worked on it some more, upgraded it, brought it up to speed, I said, oh man, this is just too good to miss. Well, let's first start off with our Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, let's just launch right into it, John. Go ahead and introduce yourself. We have circulated the bio you sent, but for those who may not have gotten it, please proceed.
Keith, well, thank you. And a very good evening to everyone. It's certainly good to be with you virtually. I long for the day that we all get together again in person, but it certainly sounds like that might be right around the corner for some of us. I've got to start this presentation out. We lost someone today in the labor community that was relatively significant. The sitting national AFL-CIO president, Rich Trumka, who had been involved with the labor movement for, oh my goodness, decades, passed away today unexpectedly. I last spoke to him just last week. He looked well, he looked energetic, and I just certainly goes to show you just how quickly life can turn. But we send up certainly thoughts and prayers to his family, and we certainly can honor his life and legacy by passing one of the things we're going to talk about tonight, and that's going to be the PRO Act. So Keith alluded to this earlier. There is a root program that actually President Trump had developed called Common Sense Economics many years ago. And we've delivered that all around the Southeast. That's the CSE 101 program, and this is actually an offshoot. And I chose this tonight versus doing the core CSE 101 program, number one, because I hope that you invite me back. Again, that we can do that. It's been revised with some really good data. But the National AFL is really making a push right now for the PRO Act. And they're trying to certainly cause conversations and want to create an awareness about a piece of legislation. So they have come up with a Common Sense Economics program, again, focused solely on the PRO Act. The presentation is not very long. This was actually designed to be delivered via Zoom in formats like this, certainly in the COVID era. But at the end of the day, though, the core principles remain the same. And we certainly hope that you walk away and that you learn something. Now, I understand what it's like to live in a state that's controlled by Republicans, at least for the current time. I know we've got some folks in 2022 that certainly aim to change that. But the PRO Act, just in a nutshell, to give you an idea, has passed the United States House and currently resides in the United States Senate. So we're going to talk a little bit at the end about some measures that we would like you to take, but nevertheless, though, we do realize that in South Carolina, it can be a daunting challenge to continue to go back to Republicans over and over again on some issues that we wish they were more on board with, but clearly have demonstrated that they're not. So I've got some notes. I normally don't use notes when I speak about this, but again, there is some specific messaging that they really want to get across. And we can talk a little bit more about that in the time being. So as with any Common Sense Economics presentation, we certainly encourage you to get off of mute to ask questions. They are interactive. And our learning objectives, number one, to share with others your experience of the economy, to describe how the impact of broken labor laws on workers have impacted our society, to explain how labor law reform can change the rules of the economy, And then certainly to empower family, friends, and coworkers with a specific message, specific being the key word there, to join together to advocate for labor law reform, to change the rules of the economy, and to create an economy that works for everyone. Again, key word there, certainly being everyone. So if we can advance the first slide. Excellent. Thank you so much. And certainly welcome to this presentation on labor law reform. Again, the session will be participatory, so please be prepared to come off of mute. We'll be utilizing the chat feature as well to engage with the participant, and then also to share some documents so I can get out to Keith and Katie at the end of the presentation. So to begin, right now, the income inequality gap is the largest that it has been in 50 years, 5 decades. The balance of power has shifted completely to corporations, and the labor laws designed to empower and protect working people are woefully outdated and weak. This is by design. This is something that has occurred, again, over the period of 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, which we're going to cover a little bit more in depth here in a moment. During the Great Depression, we enacted labor laws to correct the balance of power between working people and big business. Since then, corporate interests have surgically weakened those laws. The key word in that sentence certainly being surgically. This is on purpose. Today, we see the same income inequality and wage stagnation for working people that led to the passage of labor laws in the first place. This is all coming full circle. So to kind of begin, and this isn't necessarily participatory, again, if you'd like to raise your hand or offer any type of feedback that you have, but let's start by gauging how our current labor laws have impacted us, certainly in our families and our communities. I'm just going to ask a few questions if you just want to raise your hand in the chat, if this applies to you, or if you do have a personal testimony or story that might resonate with the rest of the group. But nevertheless, you or someone that you care about is unable to negotiate their pay and benefits. You or someone you care about has lost their job without justification. You or someone you care about was injured or got sick on the job because the employer did not implement safe working conditions. And this is something that's certainly timely in the COVID era, and we hear stories about this going on across the country. And Amazon, as an example, has been one of the biggest violators of what we would perceive to be normal, safe working conditions, especially in the COVID age. You or someone you care about works more than one job to make ends meet. It was James Carville, for example, was it back in the early 90s that was talking about the economy, and Bush was talking about all the jobs it created. There was an individual that stood actually at town hall and said, yep, and I have 3 of them. So again, you or someone you care about works more than one job to make ends meet. You or someone you care about was fired for trying to organize on the job. We know that these type of practices occur all over. In South Carolina specifically, the United Steelworkers are working to organize GT Tire in Chester County. And some of the practices that the company has been taking have been interested, including firing some individuals that have been trying to organize on the job. We've got a personal story, and if you haven't been following what's been going on with the Department of Juvenile Justice in South Carolina, conditions there have gotten extraordinarily bad. And while state employees are prohibited in state law from collectively bargaining, there are individuals who are trying to, I don't want to call it organize, because again, they won't recognize a full union, but are trying to organize a collective voice for progressive change. And some of those individuals, again, have realized that they've developed targets on their back and they've lost their jobs. So again, was fired for trying to organize on the job. And that even could be something that doesn't go as far as trying to organize specifically for a union. You or someone you care about can't be in a union or collectively bargain. Again, if you were a state employee in South Carolina, that applies to you. You or someone you care about is doing more work today for the same or less pay that you have been doing for years. If you know anyone who works for minimum wage or on or about that dollar amount, they are certainly doing probably more work, or in some cases, well, definitely more work, probably in some cases, at least the same amount of work for the same amount of pay, considering the minimum wage in our country has not been raised since 2009. So our current labor laws are broken and outdated. We alluded to that earlier. They do not discourage or stop corporations from breaking the rules. In fact, weak labor laws have allowed the gap between the 1% and the rest of us to skyrocket. Skyrocket is an interesting word there, because if you look at Jeff Bezos And certainly Richard Brandt says they have skyrocketed into space, and they've gotten the money to do that from accumulating wealth and certainly being a member of the 1%. But again, in fact, it's the weak labor laws that have allowed the gap between the 1% and the rest of us to skyrocket. So again, concentrating now on the middle class income shrinks slide that is currently displayed. While the share of income going to the top 10% increased dramatically, we can see from this slide that working people in the middle class saw their share of the income shrink as union membership declined. It was the unions really that built the middle class in this country, that really built suburbia and have enabled so many individuals to lift themselves out of poverty. It is no coincidence then that as attacks on unions and organizing have progressed, that we have seen the share of income to the middle class decline. We can see that as the number of working people protected by unions declined, workers' wages fell, and that certainly is not a coincidence. Our labor laws have been surgically weakened. Once again, there's that word surgically to allude this has been done on purpose over the last 80 years. So again, now we're looking at 8 decades, and it's become harder for people to improve their working conditions. Again, that's been by design. So a question now for all of you, and again, not necessarily trying to solicit a specific response, but how have our broken labor laws allowed corporations to attack workers' rights to organize and collectively bargain for better working conditions? We'll offer up just some examples. Again, certainly think in your mind about maybe a personal testimony or testimony from a friend or family member that this might sound familiar to. Number one, the firing of pro-union workers. Again, we have seen that in campaigns even all across South Carolina. Holding mandatory meetings to bash unions. This is something that Amazon did, something that Boeing has done in the past, certainly something that we see going on right now at GT Tire. Refusing to bargain contracts, and there are some provisions that the National Labor Relations Board has in place that once a group of individuals has voted to organize, there's a time frame, a clock that starts to which they must achieve their first contract. If that time frame is not achieved, then there are certain provisions that now come into play that stall the process and cause for some different evaluations. So again, keeping with the theme, you or something you care about basically has been prohibited working people from organizing or collectively bargaining on the job. And then you or someone you care about certainly has experienced anything with breaking of strikes, replacing workers, and avoiding any type of accountability. Again, these just are some common themes. There are many, many examples that you can point to that certainly would highlight how broken labor laws have allowed corporations to attack workers' rights to organize and collectively bargain for working conditions. So we can advance to the next slide now. Thank you. And while only 10.8% of workers were members of a union in 2020, 10.8% of workers were members of a union in 2020, unions, ironically, have steadily grown in popularity over the past 10 years. A recent survey found that 65% of Americans approve of labor unions. And this is one of the highest marks that we have seen in close to 50 years. People now are beginning to catch on to the fact that united, you are much stronger than trying to go at a lot of these issues alone. Another study shows that nearly half of all non-union members in the country say they would vote to join a union if they could, and that amounts to nearly 60 million Americans. So given that unions now are more popular than they have been in the last half century, and we know that nearly half of all non-members say they would like to join a union if they could, what does that say about the state of our current labor laws that less than 11% of workers are members of a union? What do we think the problem is? So again, a plethora of answers certainly would correspond to being correct regarding that particular question, all of which would be correct. But at the end of the day, the core certainly is highlighted that our woefully outdated labor laws no longer serve as an effective means, effective being the key word there, for working people to have their voices heard. Inequality has skyrocketed because union membership has dwindled and policymakers have failed to pass pro-worker labor laws. Working people have fought and won for better wages. As we can see from this particular chart that's currently being displayed, a collective voice means that higher wages for everyone is achievable, but there is still work to be done to ensure that all working people, regardless of race or gender, have the freedom to a fair return on their work. So not only does a collective voice mean a fair return on work, it also means having the freedom to care for ourselves and our families and to retire in dignity. It's interesting when we see folks that move in from the Northeast with, that have worked in New York City and Philadelphia, they've got these big union pensions. They move to South Carolina because they've got a pension they can live on and the wages are relatively cheap. And they talk to their new neighbors and it's a completely foreign concept to them because, again, the concept of even joining a union is so foreign here in the South. So workers with union contracts not only have the right to access to things like healthcare and paid sick leave, but they are more likely to have a defined pension benefit. And that is highlighted by a percentage comparison of 62 points. So we can actually advance to the next slide now. There we go. And then there's the comparison to pensions. So why is protecting the right to organize, which is what the PRO Act stands for, is a once in a generation opportunity to increase worker power, rebuild our economy, and to grow America's labor movement. Now, if you are taking notes or if you are paying attention, this next series of bullet points is something I certainly would like you to write down or remember. So the PRO Act, again, the Protect the Right to Organize Act, is the most significant worker empowerment legislation since the Great Depression, because it will, number one, empower workers to exercise the freedom to organize and bargain, to ensure that workers can reach a first contract quickly after a union is organized. Again, we talked about that earlier, about how the stopwatch or a certain period of time kicks off once an organization votes to organize. So the product also basically would end the employer's practice of punishing striker workers by hiring permanent replacements. It would also hold corporations accountable by strengthening the National Labor Relations Board. It would repeal, this is a big one for the South, right to work laws, Jim Crow era laws that are divisive and racist laws again created during the Jim Crow era that have led to lower wages, fewer benefits, and more dangerous workplaces. And then last, certainly but not least, the PRO Act would create pathways for workers to form unions without fear in newer industries like big tech. So by getting Congress to pass this legislation, we can restore the power to working people and improve the economy for all of us. We all have skin in this game, not just the wealthy few. Yet this will only happen if we work together and take action by engaging our family, friends, and coworkers. So we've got some additional information, again, that we can certainly get out to the group. There are postcards that the state, South Carolina AFL-CIO, they have that are pre-addressed to Tim Scott and to Lindsey Graham that allow you, number one, to offer some feedback, but they also have some specific messaging on the PRO Act and why it's important for Congress to take action on this. The PRO Act now becomes increasingly important because as we begin to move forward and we look at the 2022 midterms, if Democrats do not hold on to the House, to which we all know it's a very tight margin right now, and if they don't, God willing, pick up a few votes in the Senate, any type of action on the PRO Act becomes increasingly difficult because this just basically isn't language Republicans speak. And they certainly really don't have an interest in protecting working folks across the country. The loss of Rich Trumka in this, again, I have to highlight, it certainly is timely. He single-handedly wrote and was involved in a lot of the negotiations and the legislation, the framing of the PRO Act. What this means for this legislation moving forward remains uncertain. Again, he was one of the biggest champions of it. He had a lot of relationships on Capitol Hill. So it becomes increasingly important, having lost really the biggest cheerleader for this piece of legislation, to encourage all individuals, number one, to get involved, to contact, Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott. We realize that may be wishful thinking, but they've got to continue to hear from people. And the Congress has got to continue to feel the pressure regarding the PRO Act and what this would mean. There's a phrase that a rising tide lifts all boats, and we sort of echo that a little bit here when we talk about the PRO Act, because we all have skin in the game. And if we begin to improve the lives of working people, like passing really what is a once in a generation opportunity with the PRO Act, it's something that everyone would benefit from. Certainly President Joe Biden and his administration, they have enabled even this conversation to begin. The Biden administration, the PRO Act is certainly one of their hallmarks. They now are concentrated on infrastructure, but everyone is aware that the time is ticking, and it certainly needs to see action sooner than later. And then it is timely with the death of AFL-CIO President Rich Trumka, which again just happened this morning unexpectedly. I can't echo how much of a shock that is to any individuals. At this point in time, again, that's about 20 minutes. That's about what this is scripted for. I would love to entertain any questions, comments, concerns, either about the PRO Act. I do represent the South Carolina AFL-CIO as their lobbyist to the State House. I'm very familiar with what's going on there in general, and then certainly any legislation that might be pending that would be important really to anyone. I'm happy to entertain any questions, comments, concerns regarding that. With that being said, that's going to wrap up at least the presentation for the CSE 101. I would love to come back, Keith, when you guys either do meet in person and do a full Common Sense 101, which is the basics that's been revised that we haven't done for your group in quite some time. I would love to come back and do one of those presentations, because it really does help to provide a benchmark for individuals for issues, again, surrounding the economy and what a lot of the terms mean that we hear and we see that are thrown about on a daily basis. But again, PRO Act was probably a little more important tonight, just given the timeliness regarding this, and just given the urgency that we need to act on that. So with that being said, again, any questions, comments, concerns?
I saw Lee Gillis had her hand up earlier. If she'd like.
Hello, Lee.
Hi, John. Thank you for a great presentation. I really just had my hand up because I was responding to some of the questions that you were asking. How many of you know someone? And the particular question I was responding to was someone who's working, 2 or more jobs to make ends meet. I have a lot of family members. I don't know that they're in unions specifically, but a lot of family members that are having to do that. So
and that certainly is common. And COVID has changed a lot of things. And what's interesting, we are now seeing individuals that were employed, for example, in hospitality, that have now, I don't say realized, but it has forced them to look elsewhere. And if you take an individual again that works in hospitality, who might be a server or maybe a busboy or a bartender, those folks are making $2.13 an hour plus tips. And that's a tough industry to work in. And that's one that South Carolina, just given the appeal that areas like Charleston and Myrtle Beach have, it brings a lot of business into the state. And they are struggling right now because we're now realizing that, folks are entitled to make a living wage. And, the server that might have worked, for example, 2 jobs, which a lot of them do, they've now found an office gig that, maybe it might pay as much as what they're making with tips, but the notion of having to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, like even in some cases, they're now transitioning to a different employment model, which COVID certainly has helped to usher in. So, and I certainly suspect that we'll see more of that. Again, one of the things that the PRO Act actually aims to tackle is it begins to talk about industries, for example, like Uber, like DoorDash, some of these gig economy type jobs that a lot of the labor laws that the presentation indicates, they were, folks 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, as an example, we couldn't fathom Uber. The smartphone didn't exist then. We were also using flip phones. So the labor laws, again, certainly need to be outdated, and the PRO Act is something that certainly needs, it was certainly number one, provide to do that, but something certainly that we should all take advantage of. Questions, comments, concerns?
I'd like to make an observation. I saw one of your key slides started in 1967.
Right.
That was the year that I graduated from high school and was working my way through college with a wife and a daughter. and was able to do that because pay was equitable still. And that was also the time, even in Florida, where I was, the unions were reasonably strong, despite it being another one of the right to enslave states, as I refer to them. We've got to make some movement back. And I think this is an opportunity that's more like once in every 3 generation opportunity to make this impact and break this log jam, or I don't know if it's a log jam so much as it's a slippery grease slope, sending everyone into serfdom, frankly. A big problem to me, and this kind of goes back to one of my progressive stands, if we had single payer healthcare, the employers would no longer have the excuse to keep all their people cut down to 20 hours or 30 hours, so they would not be required to pay benefits.
And you touched on something interesting, because if we look at how the employer-based healthcare model started, it was born out of coming out of the Great Depression as a perk that employers could then add on to appeal to employees. And that it's something that employers, we've seen they've been able to take advantage of, again, I mean, for decades now, because if you are chained to your health care, now the Affordable Care Act certainly has helped to mitigate some of that, but if you've got a sick spouse or a sick child, that health care to you, and for what it provides, to a certain extent, it's worth more than money. And you might be willing to do certain things or put up with certain things because, again, it's through that job that provides the care and well-being for a loved one, or perhaps even for yourself. And that's something, again, that would help to break the grasp that employers have on employees, and certainly single payer would help to expedite that.
Katie has her hand up. Katie?
Hi. Yes, I heard you mention that you have postcards we can write to our representatives.
Yes, absolutely. And what I can do is, they're not electronic. So if you are interested, I can either get them to you or to Keith. The AFL office in South Carolina has them. There are plenty. There are certain goals, for example, they're trying to get individuals to fill out and to mail in. They're pre-addressed. Postage is already paid. You just need to take the time to write the message and drop them into the mailbox. We can get those out to you. So again, if you would just shoot me an address that we can mail them to, or if anyone is in or around the Columbia area in the coming weeks, you can certainly stop by the office and pick them up. Or if I don't know next time I'm going to be in your area, but we can certainly get those to you. But nevertheless, so probably via the mail, I would suspect probably would be the fastest way.
Okay.
But please, yeah, the more that you can get those out, the more that we would all appreciate it.
Wonderful. We are a postcard writing force in our group.
Excellent. If no one has any questions, comments, concerns about either the PRO Act or what might be going on at the federal level regarding that, I did just want to touch on redistricting real quick, if I may.
Please,
okay.
Go ahead.
So again, I don't know to what extent the group has been following the activities in the General Assembly here of late, but we are now into the 2021 redistricting process.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically going to draw the lines for the South Carolina House, the South Carolina Senate, and the congressional lines for the next 10 years. This has been delayed. We normally have a bit of a better head start, but the census data that they rely on is not coming out until September 30th. Now, they're going to have some preliminary data that they can use to begin some of the work with, but again, the official data isn't coming out until later. And thank you for that, Katie. I just saw that address. So that information is not coming out until later, which means that they are now operating in an even tighter time frame than they typically would, which is scary. Some of the information that we're getting out of the South Carolina House isn't as encouraging as one might hope. The Senate seems to be a little more amenable to public feedback. But if you go to scstatehouse.gov, it's right at the homepage in the center. Both have links to their redistricting websites. And they are now beginning to hold public hearings and public forums all across South Carolina. And please, if one comes to your area, or if you are near one, or if you know of friends or family that live in other parts of South Carolina that can make any of these hearings, even if they don't testify, please show up to them and show these lawmakers that people are engaged and that they care. It is no wonder that we are probably going to see the Republicans continue to try to gerrymander the House as much as they can. The Senate is a little more difficult just because it's the districts are larger. But it's critically important that if you live in an area, for example, that is split between 2 Senate districts or 2 House districts, that they are aware of that. And if you do live in a community that would like to be represented, for example, by 1 representative or 1 senator, they need to know that to take into consideration when they're drawing these lines. So please take action on that. You can sign up for their e-blast. Again, the Senate has been a little more proactive to get this information out than what we've seen in the House. South Carolina is one of the few states across the country, I believe it's actually 3, that the legislature actually draws their own lines, which is really kind of foreign to a lot of other folks, but this is the way the General Assembly does business here. So the Senate will redraw Senate lines, the House will redraw the House lines, and then they both come together in a conference committee, which is generally chaired by the Senate, to redraw the congressional lines. So the time to act is now. And again, you can get the information via scstatehouse.gov on redistricting, but please continue to pay attention to that. They're going to start to hold public hearings again. They're going on now, but actually the legislative hearings are going to start to, I believe they're scheduled down for sometime in October. Timeline is still very fluid. They're still trying to work out a lot of these details themselves. But if now is ever a time to pay attention, sorry, now is certainly a time to begin to pay attention if there ever was. And please, again, just engage, pay attention, and act on what is going on right now.
Well, I hope you'll be encouraged to know that we just had our tri-county hearing last week in York County, and William St. Louis, Alan Sattler, myself, and Katie attended, and Katie and I spoke at it. And I'm going to show Katie's very excellent presentation in a little bit near the end of this meeting.
Very good.
So we're on top of it, and we're going to.
Good.
And Katie, would you like to go ahead and jump in and mention what we're doing on the 28th?
Sure. Actually, John, I just sent you a message. And let me put this in the chat for everyone.
I'm never reluctant to jump around on my agenda.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. I'm good.
Yeah.
28th of August, at 11, we are going to host the Women's Council and the Democratic Party are hosting a forum on redistricting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm going to put the link in the chat for everyone if you want to sign up. It's going to be hybrid, so there will be some of us in person at the Lancaster Library. You can also join us on Zoom. And we've got someone from the Women in Leadership who's going to present and teach us all about redistricting and how we can advocate for fair maps. That is
excellent news. And it's heartwarming as well to hear that you guys have been active on the Senate hearings. And again, that the House hearings are coming up too, so I'm sure you'll be aware of that. But thank you for that. I'll definitely check that out. Very good. Well, Keith, again, any questions, comments, concerns? If not, I'm going to leave it with you guys to finish your meeting up. Again, hope I didn't take too long. Looks like it's about 7:40 according to my clock.
No, that worked out quite well, John. And looking forward to having you back when we can do this in a live meeting and then maybe go out afterward for a beer.
That would be extraordinary, my friend. I long for that day. So please, I'm up for the invitation.
All right.
Very good. Thank you all. This time I'm going to leave you, okay?
Okay.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
All right. Hey, I don't know what's going on with the current software. It's just not working the way it used to, but then we're used to this, I would think. Okay, we're gonna move along on the agenda. The next thing up is our treasurer's report from William St. Louis.
I'm going to interrupt really quickly.
Oh, go
I'm
for it.
going to put another link in the chat. And if everyone could click this link, please, it'll be about 30 seconds of work and sign in for us. Just so we have a record of attendance.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Okay. William.
Okay, we started off in July with $4,367.92. There were no deposits, although we do have some checks to be deposited, which if it's okay, I'll try to drop by your house tomorrow and pick them up
That'd be great.
about 10. We only had one check to clear. That was for stamps for $71.03. We still had a phone bill come out, $17.68, and I'm still trying to get in touch with Squarespace. They're still charging us $6.48. I need to find out who's got the password to Squarespace.
Oh.
Once upon a time, I did. I'm going to look, and if I do, I'll send it to you.
Okay, just send a private message. Okay. Anyway, like I said, our ending balance was $4,272.73. Any questions?
If there's no questions, can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report as submitted? Hello? Come on, folks. We need a motion and a second on that. Maria?
I second it. Ken Gillis.
Okay, Ken. I didn't catch who made the motion, though. Is that Maria? Fred, did you make the motion? Or attempt to?
That looked like Marla Sullivan, I think.
Oh, Marla, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, Marla. Okay,
She's
well,
having sound issues.
the font's a little small on my screen. I apologize, Marla. All right, so we have all in favor, indicate by saying aye or waving a hand.
Aye.
And any opposed, indicate by the same sign. Seeing no opposition, the report is accepted as submitted.
Keith,
Pardon?
may I ask Bonnie right quick, did you get your check for stamps, Bonnie?
Yes, I did, and I'm going to
Okay.
deposit it tonight.
Okay, well, no problem. I just want to make sure you got it. Thank you.
Yep, I did. Thank you. And I think the reason, Keith, you weren't getting any responses because we were all filling out Katie's form.
Okay.
And I know my PC hung up while I was doing it, so yeah.
That's not surprising. Okay, no problem. We've got the treasurer's report. Unfortunately, we're missing Carrie Kimmel tonight, so we won't have a report on the executive committee, but I haven't seen anything come through my email on activity there. So then moving on to action teams, is there anything for a quick request for volunteers or whatever on any of the action teams? Just go ahead and you go ahead.
If anyone is interested or knows anyone who's interested in helping out with our Instagram, let me know. I'm still doing it. I'm just not doing a great job of it. I'm getting spread a little thin. So if I could get some help, that would be great.
Thank you. Everybody needs some backup on whatever they're doing. Okay. Hey, Tom, do you have anything on the veterans?
Nothing since the last meeting at which we elected Tim Lewis as chairman. I suggested having some Zoom conferences, which I could set up, but Tim was interested, but so far nothing.
Well, you know, you all be welcome to use our county Zoom account if you need to for, you know, the higher level of features and the longer time, unlimited time.
Yeah, I've got an account.
You bet. Okay, let's see what else we got here. As far as the Labor Progressive Caucus goes, the young people are being very active and looking at opportunities to move the agenda forward, and looking at opportunities to publicly get our democratic message out. Katie and I would certainly be informing everyone as things come up on that front. Anyone else on caucuses?
This is St. Louis. I have tried to contact the business caucus 3 times and I can't get a response. So just wanted to let you know that I'm trying.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate your efforts on that.
Hey, Keith, it's Lee. We haven't heard from the Black Caucus, so we're going to try to go online and see if we can find out some updates, but we were kind of expecting an email of some sort. But I just wanted to loop back to action team updates real quick, because Marla Sullivan is on this meeting. I saw her pop up. I hope she's still on. Marla contacted me. She's been, she is interested rather in joining the membership team. And so I'm going to be scheduling some time with her and probably including you, Katie, and Bonnie again, so that we can do the same presentation that we did a month or so ago.
Okay.
So I just want to let you know that and welcome Marla to our monthly meeting.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get our orientation polished. Now, speaking of which, didn't we have at the Dem Good Time, Katie, didn't we have someone that was interested in helping out with the events, helping Judy?
Yes, we had 5 new people at Dem Good Time, and what was her name? Chrissy. Chrissy was interested in helping out with events. She wants to do the in-person stuff,
Right.
like sitting at a table, talking to people.
Yeah, she actually expressed that. Yeah. We'll have to get her connected with the events
With Judy.
team lead, which is Judy, isn't it? Right.
Sounds like they'd be a good team, because Judy is still very willing to do the organizing and, you know, the behind the scenes stuff, but she really needed someone to step up for the in-person stuff. And Chrissy sounds really enthusiastic about that. So that'll be real good.
But I would like for someone else to be the team leader and just be on the team.
Okay.
I will help with the behind the scenes stuff, and when the virus is over, I'll take my turn sitting at the table.
Okay.
But I would like someone else to become the organizer of it, and I will help that person if we can get a new team leader, know everything to do and share all the resources that I have.
Okay. Well, why don't we set up a meeting between several of us? work that out. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Well, the executive committee met and voted to, of course, that was with the knowledge, that's with the situation as it was 2 weeks ago. We're going to try a hybrid general meeting for the September meeting. We'll keep watching on how things progress with this current COVID spike, and we may back off from that. We'll just try to make a intelligent decision as we get closer to it. But there will be, as always, a Zoom component. And then the only question on that meeting is whether we'll attempt with strict CDC protocols to have those who are comfortable meet at the new library facility. So we'll let you know and make a call on that. But there would still be the usual first Thursday of the month general meeting. Okay, I'm gonna ask Katie to talk about the redistricting meeting that we went to last week. And while I queue up the video.
Oh, boy. I need to go for a second. No, I'm just kidding. Last Thursday was the redistricting hearing for CD5, if I'm correct. It was in Rock Hill, and so it was like York County and all the surrounding counties, including Lancaster County. So we got to sit before the Senate committee, some were in person, some are on Zoom, and we did a good job of filling up that little room. It was like a lecture hall at the, was it the community college? I'm not familiar with that area.
Mid-Florida Tech. I'm sorry, Mid-Florida flashback. York County Tech.
Yeah. So there were a lot of people there. We filled up the lecture hall, which was great. Several House members were there too. No.
Mostly Senate.
Senate, yeah. Henry Gustafson is Senate. Henry Gustafson, I can't say her name well. I've got to practice that. She's the Senate representative for like the lower half of Lancaster County. She came and talked to all of us. Michael, what is his last name?
Fanning.
No, the senator for the northern half of Lancaster County.
Johnson.
Oh,
Michael Johnson, thank you. Michael Johnson was there, but stayed on the other side of the room. And a lot of good people showed up and talked. A lot of Black women were there, and they were amazing. They just stood out in my mind because they were so passionate and knowledgeable and just blew it away. Like, it was amazing. It really felt like seeing democracy in action. I loved it. And then Keith and I spoke, tried to do what we could, and he's going to tell on me.
Okay. I love that expression on your face. Everyone see the screen? I accidentally bumped it here. Let me see if I can get that.
We need a screenshot of that.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I backed it up just a tiny bit.
Thank you, sir.
Fat for more.
Katie Crosby? Yes, ma'am.
By the way, this was the first time I was wearing real shoes after 6 weeks.
Good evening, Senators.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
A lot to follow that. That was incredible. Just want to say I'm here to support.
If you would draw a little closer to the mic.
Sure. My name is Katie Crosby, Katie Crosby, and I live in Indian Land in Lancaster, South Carolina. I speak to you now because I love where I live. I love my home and I love my neighborhood. But most of all, I love the people in my community, people just like we've heard from tonight. people facing very real problems rooted in misdrawn lines. Each and every one of these people deserves to have their vote count. In 1787, James Madison wrote words that I hope we all know. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense to promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Admittedly, the US Constitution is not a perfect document, nor has it ever been, but its intentions are clear. America's government should be a system that works for all its people, of all races, of all socioeconomic statuses, of all incomes, all people. The South Carolina Constitution states this explicitly in the most prominent place possible. Article 1, Section 1. All political power is vested in and derived from the people only. Therefore, they have the right at all times to modify their form of government. Our US government and our South Carolina government are both designed to be run by our citizens. Senators, I urge you as Americans and as South Carolinians to draw fair maps when you redistrict our state. Draw districts using existing political boundaries, like the cities and the counties that we already have. Draw compact districts with regularly shaped borders. Use the input that these fine people have given you tonight and will give you all over the state. Let your re-election rest not on clever lines drawn, but on the quality of your representation. Senators, you have a responsibility to uphold democracy and to ensure the value of every South Carolinian's vote, and we are watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. I got to tell you, when you mentioned James Madison, probably every senator in here thought of a particular senator who is on our subcommittee. I see Chairman Rankin is smiling. I see Senator Kempton's also smiling. He's just a James Madison fan. So that's just an inside joke in the Senate. Thank you for those comments. Next we have William.
Okay. As I think you can see, Katie did us proud.
Yay, go Katie. That was great.
Yes, indeed. Excellent job, Katie.
Hoorah.
Woohoo!
Can't tell you how much I was shaking.
But that's where you get the energy to project and get your passion across.
And it didn't come across that way at all. So
Okay, let me see, get myself. Yep, okay. I'm trying to get myself back under control here on my screen. But the whole thing is online. I'm not going to subject you to my presentation, but I'm going to try to get Katie's and mine up on our YouTube channel. Anyway, moving along. Okay, Katie, will you want to talk about the helping of victims of evictions?
I don't have any updates. I wish I did.
Okay. Well, we're looking at several different ways to help out with the end of the moratorium. There's gonna.
You had an idea, didn't you? Or Alan?
Well, that's Alan Sattler's idea. He deserves credit for it. And the idea is to do a pledge walk on the Greenway. which would be kind of a couple, 2-3 birds with one stone thing. And I've already talked to Lauren with the Greenway, and she loves the idea. Now, this is not going to be a partisan thing from us, but it would be something we would help promote. So we're working on that. And also through whatever I can turn up on affordable housing, because the local county efforts on that are about to get restarted, and I'm involved in that committee. So believe me, if we need to put out a touch, you'll hear from us. Okay.
Keith,
Yes,
Austin, are you still on?
I see him there.
I was wondering if the city was doing anything towards evictions. I know that Becca and the United Way had been talking to the county, but I was just curious.
Yeah, we're trying to find a place. Obviously, there's more impact on the city really than anywhere else, just because when people are evicted, even if it's out in the county, they tend to come here. But you know, we're trying to see if we can use any of our ARP funds. And for short-term stuff, I mean, basically all we've had is using the carriage in is really kind of what we've had available to us, but that's really not appropriate for the family piece. So, I mean, other than that, I can't really say a whole lot, but I mean, it really is it's getting, you know, from the landlord side and from you got people that have had some income coming in and they hadn't used it for rent, and there's some provision about using some of these funds to pay back rent, but some of the landlords are just saying, well, we don't want them anymore because they hadn't paid for so long.
Really?
Yeah. So that's a little piece of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do have sympathy for landlords who are trying to, they have mortgages to cover, but you know, if they turn it down, then it's kind of a TS as far as I'm concerned for them. Is there much that is, I don't know, if there's any help you need from us, just let us know.
Well, I think the only thing that will be available are going to be federal pass-through funds. That if you're familiar with cities, they hadn't let our money loose because McMaster's kind of holding it. Really, it's about 11 states, and you can imagine which 11 or 12 states it is.
Yeah.
Police don't want the cities to get the money unless they can control it. And
That's
so
COVID money you're talking about.
Yeah, the big cities got there. If you're over 50,000, you got it, and the counties have gotten it, but not. They love to say Democrat-run cities. They don't really pushing not to allow the smaller cities to get a hold of the funds.
Sounds like we need to roll over those rocks and point that out to a lot of people.
Well, the Urban League is I mean, they're really pushing hard because it impacts a lot. I mean, the majority of cities are smaller than 50,000, obviously. But we've not gotten our money as of yet.
And of course, nobody can wait. That hold up.
Just based on what I've heard on the news, it sounds like part of the challenge is people being able to fill out the applications for the monies that are already available. If that's the case in our county, is there something we could do to facilitate that happening, those applications getting filled out? Do we know?
I think that's excellent point, Karen. And now that the library's back opened up, isn't it possible that we could direct these people to that facility? And maybe with some people, you know, like they do with the Obamacare navigators, that can help people fill these forms out during certain hours. What do you think, Alston?
That sounds great, but it is honestly it really is people out in the county. I mean, we're looking about just the immediate care issue probably is a bigger issue for us. But a lot of these, I mean, I'm just like the Walmart parking lot, there's a lot of people that are congregating there in the evenings just because there's some safety there. Like in cars, I'm talking about people that own cars, but almost all of those are from outside. But yeah, I think that's the navigator idea is certainly good. The Carolina Community Action may be doing that. I'm not sure.
Can you give me a contact with them?
Sure, I can get that to you.
And let's see what we can mobilize.
Because I'm sure, I mean, I'll tell you, Amber Jackson with United Way truly has been, doing the yeoman's work. You got there's a group called Latch, which is Lancaster Area Coalition for the Homeless. She, I would say, is probably the point person. Leland Summers, who does the Austin Wilkes Society, is the one that's kind of been helping when you got somebody connected through either veterans or somebody coming out of prison with some vouchers. But that, I would think the starting place, Keith, would be check in with Amber about the very thing you're talking about, because United Way has been set up in the past to help people do taxes. So that would, I think you're right. I think that's probably the smartest place to start would be somebody like her.
Okay. I mean, if you have any more, let's connect tomorrow, and then let's see what we can get mobilized here. If they need volunteers, we'll put out a call and get people in to help out. Because we got to act, we got to move. These people don't have any time. It's already past the cutoff.
I want to make sure I have this kind of straight in my mind. So there's two ways we can help right now. One would be contacting Latch to see if we can help people fill out forms to get the COVID money. And then the other way is raising money to help get people hotel rooms. Is that correct?
Well, I think if we were raising money, we'd funnel it through the United Way or whoever's making arrangements. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know if Latch is still looking into buying the hotel on the north end of 521?
Last I heard.
I haven't heard any updates on that, but I thought that was a great idea.
That place has been such a business failure. It sounds like it'd be a good way for the owners to unload it, have it put to some good public use.
Are you talking about the Carriage Inn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's owned by Springland.
Really?
Yeah. So that's not going anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but to your point and to the Latches folks, they're trying to find some permanent solutions versus just all by voucher.
Yeah.
The city, again, I mean, most subsidized housing and most over 55 subsidized housing is in the city of Lancaster. And we just put up between the one back behind McDonald's and the one off of Meeting right on Rivers, Witherspoon, or Willow, rather. I mean, that's almost 400 units for low and moderate income. And then on New Miller Street. So we have some pretty decent product that have just over the last 3 or 4 years that we've not ever had before, but it just still shows you what a need we still have.
Is this managed by Lancaster Housing Authority?
The Housing Authority manages the actual housing that they own, and they manage the vouchers. But these over 55 groups are managed by these limited partnerships, which tend to be the tax credit trade, basically. So those tend to be managed pretty daggum well because the more income you get, the more tax credit you get. And, you know,
Those are kind of private-public partnerships in
It-
certain ways, right?
yeah, it's private that does it, but the tax credit piece
Mhm.
is what the public piece is.
Yeah, something I'm very supportive of.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it a long time ago, but I think it does make sense because it definitely, we've gotten some better product over the last, over the last 3 years in particular, but over the last 10 years here in Lancaster. You go down Miller Street and New Miller Street, there's some really nice housing in there.
Mhm. Okay, well, I think we got an action item out of this. And we'll proceed with that. Well, we're down to announcements. Damn good time for August. Lee?
So I'm hopeful. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended Dem Good Time last week. It was very successful. Unfortunately, I was unable to be there. I had a incident with my mom, so couldn't leave her. But thank you everybody who did come out. And I'm looking forward to August, but we'll see with this variant. I'll wait until we get a little closer, and we'll just have to see if it makes sense.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
Kenny did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah.
One thing
Great.
we found out is that at Town Tavern, all the serving staff have to be vaccinated to work there.
Oh, good, good. They did agree to wear masks, so I asked Kenny if our serving staff wore masks, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
said that he did. So that was good.
Yeah, we will definitely continue supporting those people.
Yeah, they're good. They work with us very well.
Well,
And the date is reserved, so we'll see.
hopefully. Okay, Democratic Women's Council. No. Well,
I'll pull up the date. Hold on.
oh, I've got the date here.
Okay.
Should be Thursday, August 19. It's on the agenda. Okay, next executive committee meeting will be Tuesday, August 16. Oh, this is kind of a new thing that just popped up. Okay, you can all hate me for this, but I got Lancaster County in on the first round of the rollout of the Register 46. So we will be organizing for canvassing, very targeted canvassing. And Mandy actually has stepped up and been working with the organizer, the state party organizer assigned to Lancaster County. Someone I've actually known for a number of years, so we're in very good hands there. We have a date set for Saturday, August 21st. We'll be canvassing from 9:30 to noon. So, only 2.5 hours, which is still going to be rough in August, I'm sure. These will be these are, again, to recap, these are unregistered, eligible voters who the state party, through a number of demographics and data analysis, feel they will tend to be Democratic in their voting pattern. They probably will say independent, whatever, we don't care, as long as they show up and vote for our candidates on the issues that we can communicate to them are in their best interest. So we'll be getting out more information on that. The communication I just had was just yesterday, so we don't have the details yet. We'll be setting up a mobilize. I'll be talking to Bonnie, and I'm excited about this because I really like something that's a focused approach to getting people registered.
So Keith,
Yes.
it's Lee. Will I need to send out an email to our volunteer list for canvassers? We'll
Yes.
probably have few, but
Yeah.
most people
Yes.
like-
As soon as I get a little more detail, I mean, so far the only details, the date and the time, and we haven't even set the precinct yet or precincts.
Okay.
But
All
we'll
right,
set
well-
that in the next couple days, and I'll get with you because again, there's only 2.5 weeks off.
Yeah,
So
it's close.
We want to get the word out. Those who are comfortable with going out, there'll be real clear protocols. I don't want anyone volunteering, of course, that hasn't been fully vaccinated, and so we'll work from that. I'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the only other thing I have here is redistricting forum. Katie.
That's going to be August 28th. Just like we mentioned earlier, it's going to be hybrid. So if you're comfortable with coming in person, then you can wear your mask and come to the library in Lancaster. It's new, so we're excited about that. And if you're not comfortable coming, then you can join us on Zoom, and you'll still be able to fully participate, listen, ask questions, all of the above. And we've got a great presenter. Her name escapes me at the moment, but she's from the Women in Leadership Council. Leadership Council, is that what it is? From Women in Leadership, anyway. So
I
she's
thought it was League of Women's Voters.
information and training. Sorry, Keith, what was that?
Oh, I thought it was League of Women Voters, but they are probably working together as well.
I think it is League of Women Voters, and her first name's Laura, but I don't remember what her last name is.
It is the League of Women Voters. You're right. I'm sorry about that. Lynn Teague. And then we're actually going to have a follow-up on September 11th with some local representatives to give us even more information.
Oh, and why don't you mention some of the people that have accepted?
I don't know who's accepted.
Those emails just came through today.
I know the person I emailed accepted. I'm looking for it.
Flip is going to be there.
And who is Flip?
Flip Hutfuls from the city administrator. He is the city administrator. Now I'd have to look at my email specifically, but anyway, we will be, that was just came through this afternoon. We'll be getting all that information out pretty quickly.
Eve Willis. That's the guy I emailed.
Our county administrator.
Okay.
So we will have some good people, and they've always been very cooperative. They were very, very involved with the census, which I was working closely with our NAACP partners, and they were really, really out to make sure things happen properly.
Speaking of that, I'm going to put in a quick plug for the NAACP.
Yes.
It's $30 for a 1-year membership. And then we have monthly meetings, just like this year. And then there's different committees, like our action teams. The structure is very similar. But the NAACP is nonpartisan, and they work to make sure that everyone is getting their civil rights and that everything is equal. And they look at education, and they look at justice, and they look at healthcare, everything that's happening in Lancaster County to make sure that no discrimination is happening. Right now I'm on the education committee, and we're making sure that all students of all races the instruction they need amongst the COVID chaos. So if you're interested in anything like that, it's a great opportunity. They're good people, and it's good work. It's needed. So if you're interested in the NAACP, you can talk to Keith or I. Rita and Carrie are also in it, and a couple other people, I think, from the party.
And I am putting the branch name and unit number into the chat. If you do fill it out online, that's very helpful to the local chapter branch.
Keith,
Yes, sir.
Ralph Norman has announced that he's going to have an in-person town hall in Lancaster, August the 30th.
How many of us can show up with our sidearms?
Well, I don't know. I was at, I think the very last one he had before COVID, I was there. I didn't see any other Democrats there, but I would like to see quite a few of us show up. I've already got 2 questions I want to ask him, and I know he's not going to let me ask more than one if he still remembers me. So he may not even let me ask that one. He ended up telling me he was going to pray for me at the end of the meeting. So,
well, you know,
but I mean, he's got to take an open stance on not voting on the resolution to honor police.
mhm.
And for voting against the certification of this election. He's got to answer the people up front.
I think we need to get together in advance, coordinate our questions so we can
Agreed.
we can help him embarrass the heck out of himself.
What was that day again?
August 30th.
August 3rd.
It's 5:30, but he hasn't named where it's going to be yet.
Well, right now we need to pray for him because he's got COVID. I don't know if you know that, because he was in Lancaster, and unfortunately I met with him and face to face. So
Oh.
I'm having to get a test to make sure I don't got it now.
Oh my gosh.
When you say pray for him, which way?
Well, like as anybody that's sick, you don't want them to be, that's just the way I feel about it. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But, I went to the meeting. He's using law enforcement as a prop. And I went to the meeting in the morning that was ostensibly about federal help for law enforcement. And it was, quite frankly, was a propaganda show. And one of the attacks was the illegals coming across, the illegals. And he specifically said, we don't know what kind of diseases they're bringing with them. He poo-pooed you wearing masks, that it's all a bunch of show. And then of course he gets COVID, but it was pretty disturbing. I think it was designed, so it was set up as, we're going to talk to law enforcement, but they're really trying to pit law enforcement against basically everybody else. You got a right to be paid more. You can ask for it this way, but it was pretty much a political show, and kept talking about the Democrat-run cities and the left, threat to democracy and that sort of thing. So,
damn, Vinny, you ought to do better than that.
Sheriff invited me, and I told the sheriff thanks, but I don't think I'll say no thanks the next time. But which it was pretty upsetting and disturbing. But unfortunately, I think he does have to answer. But you got to understand, law enforcement certainly feels their backs to the wall, and they're using that fear to try to basically politicize them, so you really have to be careful about that. I don't think that's crowd. He in particular, I don't think he cares about them.
No, of course not. He doesn't care about anybody.
They say the Democrats want to defund the police, but the Republicans are actively defunding the police.
Yeah. Well, I think Congressman Clyburn said it correctly, is, and basically the constituents I'm talking with, they say we need the police. And in neighborhoods where you have a lot of crime, they need that protection that the community gives them. So I think Clyburn's 100% right. Doesn't really help when any Democrat starts talking about defund. But there's definitely changes that need to be made. And I'm not saying that lightly, but at the same time, it really is an important function for the safety and the just the cohesion of the community, to believe you're safe in your own home. And some of these places, unless you have police, you're not that. So, but it was pretty heavy on the propaganda and talking about left this and left that and the Democrat-run cities. And we had 2 terrible murders week, and one of them was 14-year-old shooting his mother. And the
Yeah.
other one was a guy getting shot multiple times out in his driveway. All of those were out in the county that had nothing to do with, that. So when you start separating people out and saying it's worse in one place than another, that doesn't help anybody.
No.
And I told the sheriff that, and I told the chairman of the county council that, but anyway. So yeah, so I'm going to get me a COVID test to make sure I didn't get it from my congressman. And I'd hate to say that's the only thing the man's ever given me, but so I hope I don't have to say that.
Hope you stay healthy. And if you need anything, just let us know.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. But I believe we should show up. I think I know exactly the face mask I'm gonna wear, and I think I know the shirt you'll be wearing, Katie. And like I said, William, I think, yeah, let's all get together and pick the best questions. We can hang them out to dry on. Yeah, we know he probably have tried to dodge them or not answer them or ignore us, but let's put it out there and keep the pressure up. We got to do this with every one of these lower life forms. Okay, are there
Okay.
any other announcements for the good of the organization? Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? And I really appreciate everyone that's hung through here, but we're still gonna make our 8:30 deadline. Do I have a motion, please?
I move we adjourn.
Bonnie makes the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Katie has seconded it. All right, all in favor signify by waving or saying aye.
Ah.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seeing no opposition. I call this meeting to a conclusion. Thank you all very much. I hope everyone enjoyed John's presentation. He really can put it at a very every man level, understanding some of these things, these issues that we face, and the value of unions. As a 17-year sheet metal worker and union member, both sheet metal and steel workers, I strongly believe in unions. I'm also third generation union guy, my grandfather and my father. Anyway, y'all take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you very much. We'll see you. I think the next thing would be the executive committee meeting. Y'all take care.
Y'all be safe.
Thanks, everyone. Be safe. Take good care.
Take care.
Bye, y'all. Stay healthy.